Good morning, America. Fire danger. Firefighters fighting flames on both coasts, battling to gain the upper hand on the massive blaze outside of Los Angeles that's destroyed more than 100 structures. Residents returning home to burned out neighborhoods, learning they've lost everything. While in the east, wildfires erupting from tinderbox conditions affecting air quality. The forecast that could help.
Return to the Oval Office. President Biden to meet with President-elect Donald Trump this week. The latest transition details and the new key figures, while Democrats do some soul-searching about the party's direction.
Delphi deliberations. The jury deciding the fate of an Indiana man accused of killing 2 teenage girls. This morning, insights into the strength of the case and the evidence jurors may be considering as they work towards a verdict.
Royal appearance. Princess Kate front and center, attending major ceremonies this weekend for the first time since announcing the end of chemo treatments, marking a significant return to royal duties.
Big collabs. Last year it was Barbenheimer. This year Wicked hopes to rule the box office.
I know about coffee.
Hollywood's latest strategies to pump up profits, with Moana 2 looking to surf to the top.
Can I get a chee-hoo?
And slam dunk season. Women's college basketball is back. The new names to watch and the must-see matchups today at tip-off. Plus, head-to-head in the NFL. ESPN's Herm Edwards previews the big games and the players with all the right moves.
Live from ABC News in New York, this is Good Morning America.
Ooh, what a way to start this Sunday. Good morning, America. So good to see you. There is a lot happening this morning here, including Princess Kate at Britain's Remembrance Day events today. We're going to go live to London in just a moment here.
Yeah, lots talking about that, but also the flu season heading right for us. We'll check in with Dr. Sutton about the latest numbers and whether it is too late to get a flu shot, and some news about certain cold medicines.
More on that ahead, but we do begin with the hazardous weather on both coasts this morning. Firefighters in Southern California hoping to make more progress on a wildfire that's destroyed or damaged more than 200 buildings. And air quality alerts are in effect as wildfires burn in the Northeast. ABC's Jacqueline Lee is in Camarillo, California with the latest. Jacqueline, good morning.
Well, good morning. This is the reality for so many residents. Homes up and down the street look just like this one. And now for firefighters, it is a race against time to get the mountain fire under control. This morning, crews intensifying their aggressive fire attack as they try to gain the upper hand on the explosive mountain fire in Ventura County. More than 20,000 acres still burning. Nearly 3,000 firefighters battling the flames and making significant progress in the last 24 hours thanks to low wind conditions. Now 21% contained.
We lost our house in the Thomas Fire in 2017, and we moved to this neighborhood after the fire.
For more than 14,000 residents, evacuation orders downgraded to evacuation warnings. Damage assessment crews deploying to more than 100 incinerated structures. Fire officials say the threat is not over yet. Even though you might not see a fire, it's still smoldering underground, so they're trying to prevent it from reigniting. The wildfire threat also consuming the Northeast amid extreme drought conditions. In New Jersey, this fire in West Milford burning at least 2,000 acres so far, not contained at all and spreading into New York State. A state forest ranger died while battling the blaze.
So scary, but what can I do?
New York Governor Kathy Hochul deploying state resources to battle fires in the southern part of the state. Officials issuing an air quality health advisory.
When she brings the rain, we'll take a break, but until we see that, I don't see any break in sight.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams announcing a ban on grilling after a brush fire in Brooklyn. Meanwhile, here in Southern California, firefighters racing to get this thing contained before the winds pick up. Gio?
Just so much devastation there behind you, Jacqueline. All right, thank you so much. And the fires in the Northeast are causing air quality concerns for millions of people. So let's bring in Samara Theodore with more on that. And this is a very serious situation, Samara.
Yes, it is. You can only not smell it here. You can actually see it. So take a look. This is a view from West Orange, New Jersey. You're looking at the New York City skyline, and you can see that gray overlay. That's the smoke. So air quality alert in place again today for those living in New York. The conditions are just still very primed for it. I mean, humidity is down to 30%. Wind gusts could reach as high as 25 miles per hour. So parts of New England still going to be dealing with the threat for wildfires today. In Philly, it's a different story. They have gone 42 days without rain, but that streak breaks today. This line of rain is getting ready to move across the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, bringing places like Philly rain, and it should help to mitigate some of that smoke we've been seeing. Janae?
That is good news, Samara, because I think that's why I'm all groggy sounding this morning. Thank you for that. To politics now, and the president-elect Trump at his next steps as he prepares for a second term in the White House. He's set to meet this week with President Biden. ABC's Mary Alice Parks is in Washington with more. Mary Alice, good morning to you.
Yeah, Janae, good morning. We're told that President-elect Trump has not begun conducting formal interviews yet. He did overnight make that rather unusual announcement about two people he said would definitely not be serving in his coming administration. Nikki Haley, who was his ambassador to the United Nations. Of course, she ran against him in the primary, but she did endorse him and offered to campaign on his behalf. And Mike Pompeo, Trump's former Secretary of State. Now, both of these Republicans were supporters of Ukraine and at times critical of Trump. Now, Pompeo spoke out about the classified documents that were found there at Mar-a-Lago. As for who could be in, a lot of questions around Tulsi Gabbard, the former Democrat who then became one of Trump's steadfast defenders, and Stephen Miller, one of Trump's senior advisors throughout the campaign and during his time there at the White House. Now, Miller, we know, has outlined specific ideas for how he would carry out a mass deportation plan. Looking ahead to next week, yes, President-elect Trump is now scheduled to meet with President Biden in the Oval Office there at the White House on Wednesday. Biden conceding the election results and promising to help Trump with a smooth transition, though, of course, Trump did not do the same 4 years ago. Whit.
All right, Mary Alice Parks, thank you so much. Let's bring in ABC's chief Washington correspondent, Jon Karl, who'll be hosting This Week later on this morning. John, great to see you as always. Obviously, a big week ahead for the incoming president after that historic election win. Already named a chief of staff. But what more are you learning about a potential Trump administration?
Look, first of all, Susie Wiles is one of those rare figures in Trump world that is pretty much respected by all sides. There's a lot of there's hope for some order with Susie Wiles, both taking the role as chief of staff, but also taking a key role in this transition. As for who is going to come in, there's a lot of push and pull from the various factions within, Trump's kind of the MAGA universe. You've got those that want to go in a direction like, Tucker Carlson, kind of a far right, full remaking of the federal government, and those that want to make sure that Trump has a successful and maybe not as radical approach. There's big questions about whether or not this is going to be the unity that Trump has talked about, or that retribution campaign he talked about during the campaign.
What about Elon Musk, the world's richest man, poured more than $100 million of his own money into the super PAC, into the campaign? What could we see his role turning out to be in an administration?
Hey, look, I don't know if Elon Musk is literally going to be on the federal payroll. I mean, he doesn't need the money, first of all. But he is going to play a major role in this administration, whether it's on the outside or actually on the inside. The talk during the campaign was he would run this Department of Government Efficiency and find a way to. He talked about he can get $2 trillion out of the federal budget. By the way, I don't know how you do that without touching things like Social Security.
And he said it could be Medicare. Painful before some of the benefits.
Painful before things go out well. But it was so notable to me this week that he was actually on the phone call with President Zelensky. So that's not government efficiency. That's also taking a really critical foreign policy, national security direction. By the way, I heard that call from the Ukrainian side actually went very well. There's a lot of concerns about how much support Donald Trump will have for Ukraine, but people close to Zelensky's office have told me that call, from their perspective, went very well.
So let's talk about the Democrats now. Obviously, a devastating result for them. What do we expect to see in terms of soul searching or possible realignment from Democratic leaders?
I mean, you see all of the various conflicting takes on this. There's a very interesting progressive, but from a different camp of the progressives, Congressman here, Richie Torres, who said the problem is that the Democrats went too far left. They tacked too far left. They tried to appease those on the left, and they alienated those in the middle. And then you have Bernie Sanders has come out, and the problem was basically the reverse. They completely lost touch with working class Americans. And then you have Nancy Pelosi had an interview with the New York Times. So the problem was Joe Biden. Joe Biden, she's suggesting, got out too late and didn't allow for the process of a competitive primary. Where Kamala Harris, if she was going to be the nominee, would have to first earn it among Democratic voters. So there's a lot of soul searching.
Yeah. A lot of finger pointing.
And frankly, soul searching and finger pointing, I don't know how much finger pointing there needs to be, but there is plenty of soul searching that should be done by Democrats.
Jon Karl, we appreciate it as always. And be sure to tune in to This Week later on this morning. Jon speaks with Trump ally Vivek Ramaswamy about the president-elect's plans for his second term. Plus, more of Jon's interview with influential radio host Charlemagne the God on what the Democratic Party should be doing next. Gio?
All right, Whit, overseas now to the wars in the Mideast. Qatari officials saying that negotiations over a ceasefire between Israel and Hamas have stalled. So what's next? Let's get the latest now from ABC's Britt Clennett in Tel Aviv. And Britt, I know you're hearing about a new airstrike this morning.
Yeah, hi, Gio. Just this morning, at least 20 people were killed in an Israeli airstrike in northern Lebanon. Lebanese authorities saying 3 children are among the victims. Now, this region still very much in crisis. Qatar now suspending its role as a mediator in talks between Israel and Hamas. Doha saying it would restart the work if both sides show their willingness to negotiate. Now, it comes as officials in the Biden administration tell ABC News that Qatar has taken steps to expel Hamas from Doha following a U.S. request to do so. It's really another worrying setback for hostage families, but also for any hopes of an end to the fighting in Gaza, where just this morning a strike on a house in Jabalia, an urban refugee camp in North Gaza, has killed 36 people. That's according to Palestinian medics, including 13 children. Now, the IDF saying it, quote, eliminated dozens of terrorists there. 11 aid trucks have entered Jabalia. That's the first food and water arriving since a renewed offensive began on October 1st. All this as we approach the end of a 30-day deadline set by the Biden administration to improve the humanitarian situation there. Janae?
All right, Britt Clennett, thank you so much. Now to Britain and the public appearances by Princess Kate this weekend following her cancer treatment. ABC's Inez de la Cantara is in London with the very latest. Good morning to you, Inez. A lot of people were excited to see her.
Good morning, Janae. Yeah, and it is a somber day today, but the Princess of Wales is looking very well. Her fans thrilled to see her back on duty.
Princess Kate back in the spotlight, joining her husband Prince William and father-in-law King Charles for Remembrance Sunday this morning. The royals out in force to honor the UK's fallen soldiers. Noticeably absent, Queen Camilla, who is recovering from a chest infection. Kate looking somber this morning as she watched the wreath-laying ceremony, a key event on the royal calendar. The princess also taking center stage last night. 2 appearances in 1 weekend marks a significant return to royal duties for Kate, who has been keeping a very low profile since she shocked the world with her cancer diagnosis back in March.
In January, I underwent major abdominal surgery in London, and at the time, it was thought that my condition was non-cancerous. The surgery was successful. However, tests after the operation found cancer had been present.
She joined the rest of the royals at the Festival of Remembrance, another event to honor the British military. The family's connection to the military runs deep. King Charles, who has also been undergoing treatment for cancer, is head of the UK's armed forces. Kate is herself an honorary colonel of the Irish Guards. And while we have seen Kate twice this weekend, the palace is saying the princess is prioritizing her health and will only gradually return to work.
I think we'll see her appear at key moments throughout the next few months, but I don't think that we're going to see as many engagements on a weekly basis as we were seeing prior to her becoming unwell. I think her return is going to continue to be gradual.
So we don't exactly know when we'll be seeing the princess next, but these appearances have everyone hopeful she will be back doing her special Christmas Carol service later this year. Guys.
All right, Inez, thank you so much. We turn now to cold and flu season heading right for us as the holidays approach. ABC News medical correspondent Dr. Darian Sutton joins us now with What to Watch. Dr. Darian, good morning. Great to see you as always. So we're getting an update now on cold and flu season from the CDC. What's the latest?
So we're following these numbers. We're following wastewater analysis, emergency room visits. Overall, thankfully, numbers remain low. We're seeing subtle increases in states like Wisconsin, Ohio, Kentucky, and Connecticut. And by increases, I mean respiratory illnesses, patients coming in with cough, sinus pressure, and flu-like symptoms. As for RSV, we're also seeing subtle increases in the South and Southeast among kids. This is just a good reminder right now that while we have numbers that are low, to go out and get your vaccines updated, especially as we march into the holiday period when we'll be seeing family members who are more vulnerable, older and younger, to better protect them.
Okay, so two questions here. Is it too late to get a flu vaccine? Yeah. And how effective, do we know how effective this current one is for this flu?
So every flu vaccine is matched up with what is most expected during the flu season. And as far as effectiveness, they're about 60 to 70% effectiveness at the best. And that's what we would typically expect. Typically expect. As for is it too late? Absolutely not. Right now, numbers are still low, so it's a great time to go out and get that vaccine. Vaccines take about 2 weeks to become fully effective, which is why I think if you get it now, you're prepared for Thanksgiving.
Okay, so that's good to know. I have a question because we want to talk about what the FDA is saying about cold medicines, but also lots of parts of the country have seen these switches in weather where it's been really warm and then it gets cooler. What is there a real impact in that? Do you see people getting more sick?
And that's the old saying, right? Our parents, our grandparents are like, don't get out in the cold. That'll increase your risk. And there is some truth to that. When you're outside in the cold, your respiratory lining is not protected as well, which makes you more susceptible to infection. And so it's not necessarily that the cold brings the illness, but it brings the risk. So as far as your second question, for phenylephrine, which is what we're talking about, the changes in cold and congestion medication in the over-the-counter aisle, this comes after an FDA proposal to remove that active ingredient in this cough medicine. This comes after a lot of review and evidence and data that looks at all the current data, and it found that it simply wasn't effective. So this is a proposal. We'll have to wait for a process, but it begs the reminder that I always talk to patients about. Be mindful of your money when you're walking into those over-the-counter aisles. A lot of those products can look really hopeful and helpful, but they don't change your outcome.
It's still everywhere, by the way. You walk into a drugstore, it's still in all of these products.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that it's not safe.
This is not a question of safety, but I think going back to the tried and tested measures, cold compresses, steam inhalation, nasal irrigation, or neti pots, these are the basic things that can help with your congestion that'll probably prove you better than what's in the over-the-counter aisle.
Important conversation that obviously you guys had questions about. Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Sutton. All right, well, this morning we remember Judith Jamison, the acclaimed dancer, choreographer, and former artistic director of the Alvin Ailey American Dance Theater. Jamison died Saturday after a brief illness in New York, surrounded by close friends. She joined the company back in 1965 at a time when black dancers were rare. After Alvin Ailey's death in 1989, Jamison became artistic director and held the role until her retirement in 2011. She lived by Ailey's mission to educate, entertain, and uplift. Judith Jamison was 81. She certainly will be missed.
Wow, and the Ailey Dance Center does such amazing work here in New York City. Incredible. All right, time now for a look at the weather. Samara Theodore is back, and it's looking soggy.
Like I always say, if it's not one thing, it's another. So our friends and our family down in Louisiana, Oakdale, Louisiana to be specific, they are dealing with all this flooding, copious amounts of rain. We're talking up to 8 inches of rain in some parts of Louisiana. A lot of this actually has to do with the fact that the system that's passing through tapped into some of that moisture, that tropical moisture from Tropical Storm Raphael, and that has just inundated parts of Louisiana and Mississippi. As we head through the remainder of the day, we could see 1 to 3 inches locally. 6 inches of rain is possible, so be extremely careful with that risk for flash flooding down there.
Now to women's college basketball. The season underway with its first weekend games. ABC's Morgan Norwood is here with more. Morgan, good morning to you. I know you're excited.
Yeah, that's right. You know, many of us are still on a high from last season when we had Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese. Of course, they've gone pro at this point, but don't worry. There's still plenty of star power and excitement left in women's college basketball, and today's lineup proves it.
How will she go for history?
After a record-smashing season, women's college basketball is back, and its first weekend packed with must-see matchups. This year, the Ally tip-off is code for a Final Four rematch, with NC State looking to avenge its loss to the reigning champs, the South Carolina Gamecocks.
Undefeated South Carolina.
The Ally Tip-Offs doubleheader also features two other 2023 Final Four teams, Virginia Tech and Iowa. The Hokies ready.
Looking forward to Hokie Nation coming down and supporting our women.
Now, with big names like Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese playing pro, all eyes are on the next generation of standouts. USC's Juju Watkins, Paige Beckers of UConn, and Flau'jae Johnson at LSU.
There are still so many other players that are creating their brands and building a name for themselves.
Several of them taking the court today.
Tessa Johnson. She plays for South Carolina. She's a sophomore. She is lights out from beyond the arc. NC State, tune into Isaiah James. She had a phenomenal NCAA tournament last season. She can score from the inside. She can score from the outside. She's a lefty, and that's a Final Four rematch.
Must-see TV right there. And, of course, you can watch the Ally tip-off action, NC State versus South Carolina at 3 p.m. on ESPN, our sister network. And then Virginia Tech and Iowa, that tips off at 5:30 on ESPN2, guys.
Excellent. All right, Morgan, thank you so much. Still ahead here on GMA, jury deliberations this weekend in the double murder trial of Richard Allen, the man accused of killing two teenage girls in Indiana in 2017. The latest on the case just ahead.
And holiday hopes for Hollywood. A look at the potential Thanksgiving weekend blockbusters and the collabs aimed at boosting the box office.
And NFL Week 10, Coach Herm Edwards back with us for a look at the big matchups. You don't want to miss it. We'll be right back here on GMA.
Watch yourself. You're not Steve Rogers. You're right. I'm not.
Welcome back to GMA on this Sunday morning. That is our first very exciting sneak peek at the trailer for Marvel's Captain America Brave New World, which is due out in theaters this February. The new trailer and poster were unveiled at Disney's first ever D23 event in Brazil Saturday. Anthony Mackie takes up the shield as Captain America this Valentine's Day.
Pretty cool.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Very exciting. All right, let's take a look at some of the other big stories that we're following this Sunday morning. Happening right now, those wildfires burning on both coasts this weekend with conditions gradually improving. Now, you may be surprised to see those northeast wildfires, but it also hasn't rained in more than a month over much of the I-95 corridor. Air quality alerts in effect today for New York City as wildfire smoke drifts across the northeast.
Also right now, NASCAR paying tribute to Hall of Famer and three-time Daytona 500 winner Bobby Allison, the founder of racing's Alabama gang, died Saturday at his home. Allison is one of only 10 drivers to have won NASCAR's career Grand Slam. Bobby Allison was 86 years old.
And a huge upset in college football as number 16 Ole Miss pulled off a 28-10 win over number 3 Georgia. My goodness. The Ole Miss student section, as you can imagine, storming the field, taking the goalposts as souvenirs. This was just the second time Ole Miss beat Georgia since 1996. Georgia was ranked number 3.
I still think of Janae stealing the goalpost back in the day, remember?
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Do I remember?
Take it to the river.
Do I?
Yeah.
Thank you, Sports Janae. All right, we start this half hour here with the jury that is deciding the fate of the man accused in a murder trial that has really captured the nation, the killing of 2 teenagers in Delphi, Indiana. Jurors preparing for their 4th day of deliberations after working through part of the weekend. Is a verdict imminent, though? ABC's Ike Ajachi is following it all. Ike, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Gio. The jury has now deliberated for 14 hours over the span of 3 days in the double murder trial of Richard Allen, a process that will continue into next week. More than 7 years after the brutal murders of 2 teenage girls in Delphi, Indiana captured the headlines, this morning, verdict watch in the trial of Richard Allen. The jury has been deliberating for over 14 hours. This after 17 days of seeing evidence and hearing testimony about the killings of 13-year-old Abby Williams and 14-year-old Libby German in 2017. Allen has pled not guilty. In their closing arguments, the prosecution showing the jury the infamous Bridge Guy video that Libby captured on her phone just moments before she was killed near the Monon High Bridge. Prosecutors say it's Richard Allen's face and voice. 52-year-old Allen, a Delphi local who worked in town at CBS, self-reported to police being at the bridge just days after the girls were found. Despite being interviewed, he didn't become a suspect until 5 years later, due to his statement being put in a filing cabinet with the wrong last name. It wasn't discovered until 2022 by a volunteer clerk. Prosecutors say they tied Allen to the crime by linking a bullet found at the murder scene to his gun, and that Allen confessed to the killings about 60 times while behind bars awaiting trial. The defense slammed the state's case, saying the ballistics testing and the investigation was bumbled, and that Allen was not in his right mind during those prison confessions after spending 13 months in solitary confinement, telling the jury that the United Nations defines any more than 15 days as torture. Now, media is not allowed in the courtroom since deliberations began, so it's unclear if the jury has had any questions or notes for the judge. There are no deliberations today, and the jury will return tomorrow at 9 a.m. Guys?
All right. Thank you for that. Joining us now to talk more about the case is ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer. Brian, thanks for being here with us. The jury got the case on Thursday. They spent 2 full days deliberating. What do you think that they're focusing on, and what evidence do you think that they're struggling with? Because this is a tough one. It could be.
Yeah, so like Ike said, the media is not in there, so we don't even know what notes they're passing on to the attorneys and the judge to figure it out. So it's like reading the tea leaves without the leaves. But in terms of the evidence, for the prosecution, they've got the fact that they have these 60-plus confessions from Richard Allen, something that I think that the jury is really struggling with. Of why would you confess this many times to a crime unless you did it? But for the defense, there's no forensic evidence that actually ties Richard Allen to the scene. There's no DNA, there's none of his blood or anything. When you think of a gruesome crime like this, you think, at least he'd leave something, right? And I think that's what they're really struggling over between those two sides of the case.
I know oftentimes we're often looking at how long a jury has a case. And in this case, we're looking at this and saying, well, they seem to be very engaged. Does that tell you anything?
Yeah, so don't forget, this jury is sequestered. And so they're not going home. They've been sequestered since October 18th. They're working 6 days a week. Unlike most jurors that get to go home at the end of the day, they get the weekend off. And so they seem really engaged. And then in Indiana, unlike where I practice in New York or in the Southern and Eastern District of New York, the jurors actually get to ask questions of the witnesses throughout the case. And they've been asking questions, engaged. And so we can see that they're really participating in this. And I think for this community, even though this jury is not from this community, they're really trying to get to the answer of who killed these 2 young girls.
And what about the possibility of a partial verdict if the jury is still struggling?
Yeah, so verdicts come in different forms, right? You can get guilty on all counts, not guilty, but of course, as you're mentioning, there's a partial verdict. And I think that is possible in a case like this, although probably more possible for a mistrial at this point. A partial verdict could be them saying, you know what, I think Richard Allen murdered these girls, but I didn't think he murdered them in an attempt to try to kidnap. Maybe the prosecution didn't prove the kidnapping aspect of it, but just the murder. So you can get guilty on some counts and not guilty on others. Or like I said, I think after this amount of time, mistrial is probably more of the question on everyone's lips right now.
Wow, definitely something to watch. Brian, thank you so much. As always, we appreciate it. We're going to go ahead and get another check of the weather. Go back to Samara Theodore. Samara, good morning to you.
Good morning, my friends. Loveland ski area, Dillon, Colorado. Oh my goodness, it's the season. We're getting ready. We're gearing up. They saw a ton of snow in Colorado. In fact, in Trinidad, Colorado, southern Colorado, and northern New Mexico, look at this time lapse. 3 feet of snow fell just to the north of there in Denver. They saw their biggest November snowfall in 40 years with just over 20 inches of snow. Now that storm system is quieted down, taking away the snow with it, bringing rain to parts of the East Coast. But look at what we're dealing with. They will see a slight uptick in temperatures, a little bit warmer than normal throughout the middle of the country, and a little bit warmer in the coming days for places like Colorado and New Mexico who were dealing with all that snow. Are you guys ready for snow? Say no. Okay, good. So we're all in alignment.
No.
Who said yes? Oh, okay.
No,
just checking.
No.
I'm checking.
That's, yeah. But we are awake tomorrow.
Oh, you know that song, Welcome Back to GMA. And last year at the movies, it was all about Barbenheimer, right? Well, now Hollywood is hoping for some new blockbusters to bump up the box office. And Will Gans says that they're hoping for some collaborations and that those can help. And you are ready for Wicked.
I'm the collaboration that we speak of. Yes. Me, green and pink, you know I got it going on. All right, but they are calling it Glicked, okay? That's Gladiator II and Wicked. It's hitting movie theaters here in New York City in roughly 11 days, 6 hours, and 18 minutes, but who's counting? Not that you need my countdown anyway. Wicked's pink and green collabs are on store shelves everywhere, reminding us to get back to the movie theater.
You're green. Legos.
It's perfect.
And Barbies and Roblox, oh my.
Over here we've got some dolls. I need all of them.
It's the pink and green marketing magic.
It's Starbucks Cup Day. Let's go. Starbucks Cup Day.
Hoping to make Wicked this season's most popular flick.
I know about popular.
Quick PSA, results from that new Elphaba cold brew may vary. With domestic box office revenues down more than 11% from last year and nearly 27% from 2019, the industry is hoping for another Barbenheimer this Thanksgiving, with Gladiator II, Wicked, and Moana 2 a few days later.
These are going to be huge box office movies. Will they save the theatrical experience?
Wicked is looking at an $80 million opening weekend with Gladiator not far behind. And what can you say except you're welcome when Moana 2 surfs into theaters to the tune of an estimated $100 million.
Can I get a chee-hoo?
And Moana's got some merch of her own, from Vera Bradley collabs to candy. Last year's ubiquitous hot pink Barbie core in stores translated to more than $1 billion at the box office.
When people thought about Wicked, did they automatically think pink and green? No, they just thought witches. Pink and green has become part of the pop culture zeitgeist right now.
And the Wicked premiere took place last night in Los Angeles. Early reviews are defying, gravity and expectations. One critic saying Wicked is the best musical-to-movie adaptation since Chicago and Mamma Mia. Wow. I know. As for Moana 2, no reviews there yet, but you better believe I'll be seated when she hits theaters on November 27th.
I can't wait for all three of those movies.
Yeah.
Right? They all look so good. Very different.
Right,
Very different.
Right, I know. The whiplash that I'll have going from Wicked to Gladiator is going to be intense, but I'll do it. I'll do it for the art, you know?
Well, we are glad you came to play.
Oh, thank you.
You brought the fashion game.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
As Maui would say.
Welcome. Coming up here on Good Morning America, the big games in the NFL. You know who's here, Herm Edwards. He's back with his picks and predictions. Stick around.
Welcome back to GMA. Gio's very excited about Monday Night Football. He is ready to keep his streak alive. We are taking a look
at
Dolphins. Week 10 in the NFL with lots of great matchups. Veteran head coach, our buddy Herm Edwards, back in the house with us. Coach, good morning. Great to have you as always. Let's jump right into the showdown between the Commanders and the Steelers. Both teams lead their divisions. What's it going to take for them to get the win?
Well, I think if you're the Commanders, you got to realize you're going to have to deal with the Pittsburgh defense. And this is Jaden Daniels' first big test. This defense has only given up 15 points a game. And here's a critical one. They take the ball away. They have 15 takeaways. So Jaden's going to have to be very careful with the ball. And on the other side of it, if you're Washington, you're going to have to deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers run game. We know about Russell Wilson and all that kind of good stuff, but it's really about their run game. Can they stop Harrison from running the football? And that has been the weakness of the Washington Commanders, their run defense.
So, but you're close with Jaden, right? So what did you tell him? What are you texting him?
Well, it's very simple. If it looks a little fuzzy, just run and get through the down. You'll be fine.
There you go.
He's good at that.
Later today, a major NFC East matchup between the Eagles, the Cowboys, Saquon Barkley literally jumping over his opponents. Can the Cowboys contain him?
Well, that's going to be the big test for the Cowboys defense, in the fact that Barkley, not only can he run, he can catch the ball as well. I would give him the ball. He would touch the ball at least 30 times for me. I would have him run it about 25 and give him about 5 passes. And this has been the Cowboys' sore spot. They're not very good defending the run or against running backs that can catch the ball coming out of the backfield. So I would wear number 26 out.
All right, Coach, let's look at that Who's with Herm scoreboard right now, right? Because Witt, he's got that commanding lead.
It's not commanding.
It's commanding.
It's not commanding.
It's not commanding.
Janae's close behind at 7.
Exactly.
Herm's got 6. I am still thriving at 0. Thriving at 0. So for Monday Night Football on ESPN, we have the Dolphins visiting the Rams. So can the Dolphins snap their losing streak? Who you got, Herm?
No. The Rams are going to win this game. The Rams might win this thing by 14 points. So don't you take the Dolphins. You have to take the Rams.
He's from Miami.
He's from Miami.
I'm from Miami. I've got to take the Dolphins.
You can tell him, look, Coach Herm told me I can't take my team this week.
Gio, can you pick
I'm going
the winners?
Rams. I'm going
You're going
Rams? Yep.
I'm going to go Rams, too.
Yeah, you're going with Rams. I got to go with the Dolphins.
Oh,
Coach, I
man.
can't do that to Miami.
Miami love.
I can't do it.
This is not the 72 Dolphins when they went undefeated. It's not that team.
He'll be at the Clevelander on South Beach driving his sorrows on Tuesday morning. Thank you, Coach.
Oh, you're the best.
My pleasure.
And you can catch the Rams hosting the Dolphins Monday night at 8 Eastern on ESPN.
And a reminder, ABC News Live will have weekend. She has to sneeze. That's why we were laughing. Weekend programming every weekend. We'll provide news. Janae's going to be in that seat.
It's going to be me.
Yeah?
Thank you.
And you're going to be
She's going to be there, too. Thank you for starting your day with us. It's been a great day, hasn't it? We'll have much
I'll be
more
watching
later
football.
this week. See ya.
Bye.
Sunday.